Testing, testing, testing. Get this thing in order. I want to shout out to everybody catching this live, and everybody who will catch this shortly after it goes live.
Never miss another live stream again. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and click see all notifications.
So what's the motherfucking deal? What's going down? Shout out to everybody in Sauce Nation. Welcome to Sauce Sports. I am your host, Ed Honcho. If you're not familiar with Sauce Sport is the all sports, only Houston. Okay, let me calm down a little bit because I don't want to get too excited right now. I mean, I want to calm down a little bit. Let me start that over. Welcome to Sauce Sports. Sauce Sports is a Houston, Texas homer network where we talk all sports, only Houston. Okay, and so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Texans, a lot about the Rockets. Today is a Rockets day. You know, the Rockets will be playing this evening versus the Jazz, Game 2, 2018, Round 2. What is that, quarterfinals? Semifinals? Which one is it now? Quarterfinals, I think. And, yeah, I think so, because there's only 4 teams left in these things, so the quarterfinals. And, you know, I'm going to talk about why I feel like this Rockets versus Jazz series is underrated. I don't think it's getting the credibility or the credit that it deserves, you know, in the national media. One reason I say this is because you're talking about a team that has, in most people, I hear a lot of people saying, the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. You know, as Rockets fans, we see things a little bit differently. We see things a little bit on the other side of the table. But hey, if they say he's a defensive player of the year, whatever. We don't care. We're not worried about that. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, good grief. Sorry about that. I apologize. But you know, as Rockets fans, we see things a little bit differently. Gobert hasn't really been all that every time that we've faced him. But then you're also talking about a team that has, in shout out to Spitz, the definition of throw, Spitz, Donovan Mitchell, a guy that a lot of people would consider, or in many fans' opinion, is my personal opinion. If I had a vote, I'd be voting as the rookie of the year in Donovan Mitchell. And so you're talking about stars, you're talking about talent. I mean, these are guys that players that people pay attention to, because when you're doing things above and beyond, you know, your peers, people are going to start to pay attention. So, you know, if you're talking about a guy who's a candidate for Rookie of the Year, you're talking about a guy who's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Now you're talking about, okay, this team must be somewhat interesting. Okay, must be something going on over here for these guys to be recognized for these nominations. And then you're talking about a team on the other side. Again, we're just talking about this year. We're not going to go into the historical, you know, associations. But let's talk about this year. And then you're talking about a team with the Rookie of the Year, a team with the Defensive Player of the Year, most likely, or maybe not the Rookie of the Year. But they're going against the most likely MVP of the entire NBA. But this game, it doesn't get any love via the national media. I know it's not a sexy game. I know it's not a very attractive game. I know it's not a game that nationwide appeals to fans. Houston versus Utah. What does Utah represent out of it? Salt Lake City? I'm assuming Salt Lake City. You know, but the Patreon chats are very thin, so I got to do a little bit more talking. So this is more like a podcast to myself as opposed to a chat. So it's all good. It's all good. Again, you know, we got to adjust to the schedule to get the timing down right. But again, if it's coming out of Salt Lake City, whatever, you could talk about the city of Salt Lake, and you're talking about the city of Houston. Nationally, those two names don't have a lot of appeal. You know, we know what the city is. You know, because again, this is all sports, only Houston, and even those of you who are not native to Houston, who have never even been to Houston, but who still have love for Houston teams, you know, again, y'all understand what we're talking about here. Salt Lake City and Houston, those aren't sexy names. That's not a series that you're going to promote, not like a LA and New York or, things of that sort. But even though, I thought this was a star-driven league, I thought this was about the names. It's the NBA has almost transcended to where the names on the front of the jerseys, the names on the back of the jerseys are almost more important than the names on the front of the jersey. So I just think that's something that we have to consider in this take of mine. And so there's big names: Donovan Mitchell again, Rudy Gobert again, James Harden, and that's just the guys who are who are in the running this year for these awards. You're talking about Chris Paul, man. You're talking about a guy who is going to be a Hall of Famer, still playing at a high rate, a high level. You're talking about Clint Capella, a name that everybody's talking about now because of, one, what he did against, Karl Anthony Towns again, two, because of his contribution to what the Rockets have been doing this year. There are names in this series to entertain. But again, Rubio being out. Rubio was a media darling for a little bit. And, him being out, that's still a storyline that, you would think that they would try to capitalize off of. But again, there is no love for the Rockets. Because, again, even though it's still Utah, and fuck Utah, for any and all reasons, there's still no love for the Rockets. Because you would think that, hey, this is the number one team in the league. They're balling. They're hooping. They lost a game last series against what would any other way if Butler was healthy would have been a 3 seed, 4 seed at the worst. But that series got no love. This series gets no love, and you have again Golden State with taking on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is the name, of course. I don't know what Golden State is because they're the reigning champions and things like that, and all the names and the firepower with that. But you just get no love over here. You get who else you got? You got Toronto and LeBron. That whole series, we already understand what's going on with that. And then what was the Celtics and I can't think of the last team. The Celtics in Philadelphia. Like, come on, man. You would think we would get more love than the Celtics in Philadelphia, especially with everything that's going on with that. But out of all of those series, we kind of the bottom of the barrel. Again, the number 2 offensive team versus the number 2 defensive team, in the league. You would think that would have some type of interest. You would think, hey, the number 1 team in the league, you would think that would have some type of effect. But no, of course, it's the return of Steph Curry and, things of that nature. But as a Rockets fan, this is something we have to deal with when it comes to the national media. No, we are going to gripe and complain. But we must get used to it. We have been used to it. And don't expect things to change anytime soon because that's just the way it was. That's the way I don't think it'll always be, but for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to have an issue. But like I say, the media outside of the city, I'm sure outside of Salt Lake, is downplaying this series. And I know a lot of people think it's a wash. Houston should just, win, especially with Rubio going down. You're talking about them losing about, 13 points a game on average. He averaged a little bit more the last series. I think about close to 17, something like that. And so I know people are thinking, with that already, the Jazz aren't just the most offensive team, and the Rockets are still a solid defense, and the Rockets are a potent enough offense to put up points that the Jazz would they're easily eliminated. But I don't think you just count them all the way out yet. I think that whenever this game returns to Utah, the same way I felt about Minnesota. Minnesota had that energy because it's been so long since they had been in the playoffs and everything like that. But I think when this game returns to Utah, Salt Lake City, I don't know, have we determined that? I can't recall. The fans there, they're a little bit rowdy. The Rockets, they tend to have some off nights, and things don't always go our way, and so there's always the possibility that the Rockets could lose a game, possibly two. You know, the Rockets sometimes occasionally have slumps. Now, those are things that we can't afford going into the next round, but hopefully the Rockets are back clicking. I mean, it looks good the last couple of games. We want to see if that streak is going to return, you know, or are they back on point like they were early in the season? Is that the Rockets team that we're going to see against Golden State? I mean, because it's already presumed. Let's, you know, knock on wood, nothing negative happens, nothing negative takes place that, you know, derails that. But it's already presumed the Rockets will be taking on Golden State. But again, you don't want to overlook any opponent. But like I said, I don't know about the Rockets sweeping the Jazz. I mean, but then again, just as easily as I could say, you know, the Jazz could win 2 games, I could also say the Rockets could sweep the Jazz. I mean, it's just like that. Now, you have to give damn, I can't think of his name right now. The Jazz's coach, because he's solid. He looking at that second half, you know, it was a couple of things that you could either take into account. Either the Jazz made the proper adjustments in the situation and they got to the point where, you know, they were kind of figuring out what the Rockets were doing and they were able to apply a little bit more pressure, because the Rockets only had, 46 points in the second half, which is unacceptable. If you can drop 50 in a quarter, it should be ridiculous to have less than 50 in any half ever. I don't know that's saying, you know, a lot, because it's the NBA. You know, you have bad shooting nights and things like that take place, and you can't just say, you know, you should be perfect. But I mean, you should be very disappointed to come away in any half with anything less than 50 if you know that you're capable of putting up 50 points in a quarter. But again, so now you could attribute that to either the Rockets feeling like, okay, well, we're up by damn near 30, fuck it, you know, and they kind of have a personality of they're just going to kind of do what they want to do. Or you could look at it as, hey, maybe the Jazz figured something out here. Maybe the Jazz have an idea of what's going on with the Rockets, and maybe they found a suitable matchup, or maybe they found the right defense to contain some of what the Rockets were doing. Because again, a lot of that took place in the first half. The second half was not as attractive, but when you have such a good first half, I mean, you know, and the rest of the second half is spent by a team trying to play catch up, you know, and you're just kind of maintaining. It is what it is. So again, we want to talk about the Texans, and they let go of a couple of scouts and an assistant GM this week, and that's Jimmy Ray, Mike, I don't even know what the name. My handwriting is bad. I didn't take good notes on that. So let's just be honest about that. So my fucking sloppy handwriting, I can't even. But I know the director of college scouting, the assistant general manager, and the assistant director of college scouting. And we brought in James, I guess, Lipfort as the new director of college scouting. And, you know, he spent 9 years in the Patriots tree. John Carr, that's the name. Okay, I'm sorry about that. And I believe the other one was Mike Martin. He was a Patriots national scout. He spent 9 years, I think, 5 years as an area scout. 3 years as a national scout. And played for Georgia Tech. He was a 3-year letterman, a walk-on guy. So a hard-working go-getter. Revered as diligent by a lot of his peers. Now, I know a lot of people were saying that was a telltale sign of what was going on, that the Texans had a bad draft. I'm going to have to disagree with that, because the thing is, I don't feel like you have time. You don't have time to replace a scouting staff. Now, of course, you could let a couple of guys go, because they did let a couple of guys go when they first got there. But, you know, maybe they, for whatever reason, they felt like, hey, these guys are unnecessary. But you keep I guess, a core base, and you know, like I say, because what you would have to do is, if you brought in some new guys, you'd have to get them up to speed on, you know, what the team has already been knowing for, in the past year or so, shit from the season at least. Okay, we have some deficits here. We need to be looking for players to fill here. And so you got to bring guys up to speed, get them familiar with, the roster, what you're looking for, your philosophy on the whole thing. Then it is finding the right guys. Are these guys going to be available? Because they may be deeply entrenched in the work. Because this is something you have to consider. This is something you have to consider at a certain level and in certain careers. It's not always about the money. Because there's certain careers where you get paid so much money that they're like, fuck it. You know what? We're eating. We're good. We really ain't tripping on that. That you see a lot of studies. You hear a lot of, well, you don't hear a lot of stuff, but I've seen a lot of studies where they talk about, offering employees incentives for money. And that doesn't really drive them. But then some of these more innovative companies, what they go out and do is they offer the employees a chance to be a part of something bigger, to create, to show off who they are, things like that. So I'm saying all this to say that, do you think that these guys who are scouts, who are employed other places, things like that, do you seriously think that they want to basically come off a year's hard work to just say, okay, well, I'm going to go jump with this other team, to basically take all this work that I've done for a year on scouting specific players, specific needs, and all these things for this team in anticipation of the draft that's coming up, okay, for this team, that I'm just going to say, hey, fuck it. My buddy over here is a new GM. I'm going to get rid of this year's worth of work and research and due diligence that I've done. And I'm going to jump ship over here, have a compressed time frame in which to work, and expect to do my best work, and not expect to be under stress and a high, heavy workload, to get the job done. That doesn't make sense. Even if you have been drafting other players, even if you have been scouting other players, depending on what you're looking for, team needs, certain things that you're looking for, you're going to have to go back and do, again, you'd have to do a different job again. So I don't think that there was as big of a deal with the Texans letting go scouting staff. Again, Brian Gaines is putting his stamp on, he's putting his stamp on his tenure as a GM. Spend some time going back and looking at, some of these picks. And again, not as high on the draft. But then again, I'm not as low. I'm not as negative on it. I think some of these picks will pan out. Reed is going to be an excellent pick. Reed is going to develop into something major, and so I really do like that pick. The Rankin kid, I think he's going to play. I don't know if it's going to be tackle, but I think he's going to play out. He's going to find a position. He's going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Like I said again, it's just not really a need to. I don't think we need to implode. The Texans are going to be all right as far as. I guess I should have put that on there. Huh? The Texans are going to be all right as far as the draft picks and the things that have taken place. Now, at this point, it's time to get ready to see what these rookies are capable of. The rookie mini camp will be coming up very shortly. I want to say somewhere around this mark. All right, sorry about that. But again, so like I said, we'll start seeing what they're really working with. See what some of these undrafted free agents are working with. The Karl Malone one is so very interesting, considering we're playing the Jazz right now, as this basically is taking place. And the history, if you will, between not the Texans and the Jazz, but the Rockets and the Jazz. And like I say, the current shit that's going on now. But it feels a little bit different. I don't know if it's because, again, Donovan Mitchell, he looks up to CP3 as a mentor. I don't know if it's the familiarity between the players as to why it hasn't gotten really chippy. But again, it's only been one game. The Jazz retired. it's something to think about. Also, I mean, it's actually something we definitely have to think about. Matter of fact, let me put that there. How will game 2 differ tonight? And what I mean by how will game 2 differ tonight is that I don't think we saw the best from the Jazz. And we definitely won't see the best from the Jazz with Ricky Rubio being unavailable. But I do believe that as the team is assembled right now, I don't feel like we saw the best from the Jazz. We saw a little bit above average play from Jay Crowder, and that is what it is. But that's not going to happen on a nightly basis like that. You know, you might get that a couple of games. But I do feel like you'll have a healthier, or not even healthier, but a more refreshed team coming at you tonight because, again, last game, less than 36 hours, and you're back playing ball against another club. There's no practice. There's no time to kind of come up with a game plan. I mean, there's time to come up with a game plan, but it's no time to really, you know, to get all the things you need. Again, the rest you need, the preparation, you know, the thought process, it's kind of jammed up. I mean, you can do it. It can be done. Let's not say it's impossible, but the time you would like to have to recuperate as opposed to the same amount of time that you have to get prepared for a team that you've been playing, you know, every other night. And then you have to deal with a team that, you know, completely different team, completely different scheme, a team that has been refreshed, a team that's had a couple of nights to rest. But even with that rest and stuff like that, I mean, that doesn't instantly, you know, mean that you're going to get the great shooting that you got from the Rockets the other night. That's not a direct correlation to the shooting. That's what I meant to say earlier. I couldn't think sometimes you have the brain farts. But yeah, a rested team is not a direct correlation to great shooting. But again, the other night, the Rockets played well, excellent. So again, the Jazz, they have that number 2 defensive rating for a reason. I don't believe the Rockets have scored less than I know they haven't gone under 100 so far in the playoffs. And so the Jazz's season average was like 99, like right there. So we'll see who ends up where, but I definitely think the Rockets are going to keep rolling. Not very concerned about it. I feel like there will be some changes to go along with healthy. I mean, again, a more well-rested Jazz team, but I feel like there will be some changes. I feel like there are. I feel like there are a couple of things that we have to take into account, and some people may be undermining these things, and people saying the Rockets are just that good. But again, this is the playoff; every game counts. You know, we could be in a similar situation to the Jazz, where say if we lose, say we lose a game, say Golden State sweeps the Pelicans, who I think the Pelicans might be able to squeeze off a game. You know, the last one was a little bit closer than they may have liked. If a couple of things go the other way and then going to New Orleans, yeah, they might. But anyway, there's some factors. We could end up just like the Jazz did coming into this series, which is coming out of one series and to jump immediately into another. So we're not only playing against the Jazz, we're also playing against the Warriors and the Pelicans. So because if that series goes straight only 4 games, then we need our series to go 4 games. Because if we are going to beat the Warriors, we're going to topple the Warriors, whatever it's going to take, we are going to have to bring our A-plus game. We're studying. We've been preparing for this test for the entire school year. This is the finals, you know, because again, if we beat the Warriors, anybody who comes out of the East is lunch meat, you know. Pardon me. Anybody who comes out of the East is going to be a cakewalk. Like I'm not even questioning that. I have no concerns about anybody in the East. Not Toronto, who it won't be. You know, not Boston, not the 76ers, and 76ers losing to Boston with nobody. So I'm not worried about anybody coming out of the East, who most likely will be LeBron again. And so hopefully, like I say, we go ahead, we beat the Warriors, we beat the Cavs. LeBron doesn't come here. We pick up another big name free agent. We form us a big three, and we call it a wrap. So that's about how that whole thing goes. Some things that we're going to talk about. Some things we're going to talk about in the main sauce, the everybody sauce tonight. Houston H-Town Sports Live. You know, I put that on this one, which this one shouldn't be. It's supposed to be H-Town Sports Today, and then the other one is H-Town Sports Live. Or maybe I need to come up with different names for both. We'll figure it all out. Who cares? But it's some things that we have to look into. I mean, all is well, all is good right now. We're having a good time. We're loving everything that's happening in Houston. But we're going to have to look at a few things that could be telltale signs of whether the future of Houston sports is in good or isn't a good or a bad trajectory. So that's definitely something we're going to have to consider later on. What else? Oh, I'm going to talk about re-signing fucking Alfred Blue. Blue, you're my boy, Blue. All that good stuff. Yes, Alfred Blue, Young Dolph. You know, some people called it. Some people said, I don't remember who it was exactly in the round table who called it. But, oh, man, you know what? And I got to remember that the secondary sauce there, we got to figure out what time that's going to be because we got pregame tonight. So pregame is going to be at, I think, 6:15 because the Rockets play at 7. Maybe somewhere mid in between game. We'll see. We'll figure it all out. But you know, bringing Alfred Blue back, which is craziness. It's craziness because I mean, only a 1-year deal. I don't think it's that much. I forgot what the price tag was. It's just crazy, you know. I'm just wondering, shit, if that was the case, what couldn't they come to an agreement? Maybe he thought he would have higher value on the market. And I'm curious. I'm curious as to what they were paying him. So I need to find out how much they were paying Alfred Blue. So if we actually went up or we got a bargain on him as opposed to what he was making while he was a Houston Texan. Well, he still is a Houston Texan. So I mean, so what he was making previously as a Houston Texan, previously on Law and Order. Now I'm actually pretty hungry, so I'm gonna get up out of here. But I appreciate everybody who checks this out post live stream. Because I can see for the most part, I don't think anybody slid in here live unless y'all being quiet and just watching, but it is what it is. I am your boy at Honcho. I appreciate y'all following through. I appreciate y'all check it out when you check it out, man. Make sure you hit that comment section. Here's the deal. Everybody who has watched the entire video all the way through to this point, I'm gonna give y'all something special. This is for the real sauce listeners. Everybody who comments under this video, hashtag work hard. Under this video, hashtag work hard. Everybody who comments that under the video will get 250,000 sauce, 250,000 sauce. So in the live stream. So make sure that you leave a comment, hashtag work hard. And everybody else, you know what I'm saying, I fucks with y'all, and I appreciate it. Everybody, the Patreon supporters, I appreciate everybody that comes through live in the super chats, everybody that comes through from the Streamlab donations. Again, you know, stay tuned. There are changes, and I'll run over this one more time for everybody who may have missed it yesterday. I guess that would be a good idea, too. This is the new schedule. So again, on the Honcho show, which I'm gonna put a link in the description on one of these things. I have a channel called a Honcho, so I'm gonna start doing a early morning stream, and it's gonna be just mainly kind of talking about news and things that's going on. But it's gonna be called "What's the Motherfucking Deal?" And y'all already know that's what I always say. 12 o'clock will be the patron only streams, and like I say, it'll last about 30 minutes of stream. 6 o'clock from now on, just outside of prime time. The H-Town Sports Live, that'll be the Daily Sauce, will be done. The Patreon-only stream is H-Town Sports Today, and then H-Town Sports Live is the sauce, Daily Sauce, basically. We'll start moving the Kush Dens to 9 o'clock unless there are post games and things like that to do. Then, the time may change on those. And depending on, what time that may happen, the mixer streams are expected to start about 11 to go from there. And the 30, but that's about the time that I try to plan to keep them around that, not too much longer. So you can catch me on Sauce Sports, Instagram and Twitter. Sauce Sport HTX, on Instagram and Twitter. You can catch me at Honcho HTX, HonchoHTX on Instagram and Twitter. And if you fuck with the Kush Den, you can catch me at the Kush Den at _Kush Den on Instagram and at in the Kush Den on Twitter. But with that being said, I appreciate each and every one of y'all, everybody who follows me on all the various different platforms, everybody who just fuck with the sauce. However you fuck with it, however you get it in, man, I sincerely appreciate it. But with that being said, I'm trying to produce y'all be cool like y'all be cool. It's your boy at Honcho, and